If you're looking for some straight-up marketing advice that's super chilled and also a bit of a laugh, then grab yourself a drink and get ready for Marketing and Margaritas, a podcast that makes marketing entertaining. Brought to you by Rebel Nation, direct from regional Queensland.
Hello and welcome to Marketing and Margaritas. I'm joined by Beck from Southern Cross Austereo, also known as SEA.
Not super cheap auto.
That would never have even crossed my mind, trust me. Not a place I hang out, funnily enough. So today we're going to be talking about why radio does work and how to actually make that happen. So my whole career has been in like marketing and comms and stuff like that. And one of the things I always get from people is that, oh, blah, blah doesn't work. Like radio doesn't work. Facebook doesn't work. Your socials doesn't drive traffic, all this kind of stuff or whatever. And I'm like, no, you just fucked it. you just didn't do it well. You didn't do it properly. And maybe you didn't actually think about it before you try something. And I'm not saying that, obviously, not being down at anyone that does, but I know that people can get sold on certain packages and stuff for their business where they're not actually looking at what they're trying to achieve, who they're trying to reach, what's the message, how they're packaging that message, all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, you can't just spend money on something and think, answer to all my problems, everything's solved. You actually have to think about shit and put some effort in, and then when you spend your money, you can spend it well. And I think with me, radio is one of those industries where people will say, well, radio doesn't work. And I'm like, actually, I find that radio can be really effective. Maybe I'm just better at marketing than you, potentially.
I think that's so funny, I do hear this quite a lot. Radio doesn't work. Like, sorry, what a ridiculous statement. Like, of course radio works. Radio works on so many levels. You just didn't do it right. So I would challenge anyone who thinks that radio doesn't work to bring me their campaign because they quite clearly have gone wrong.
Yeah,
in some element. 100%. So, whilst it is quite basic, you're getting your message out and you're broadcasting a message to a huge amount of people, your message still has to be compelling, Jade.
Yeah.
Do you have something that people actually want? Because I can tell you now, I'm not rolling out of bed for 5%, and I am not mentioning this radio ad.
5% discount, especially this day and age. Pretty good.
Absolutely not. I'm definitely not mentioning a radio ad for a discount. So, we just aren't a coupon society. But, did you run enough ads? Did you tell enough people? Did you look at your demos? Are you on the right?
Diagnose things, man. Yeah,
100%.
And I think too, for me, we were talking about this the other day, and it's just something I've been feeling for probably like the last year or so, maybe potentially going on longer than that. But just from what I've noticed personally, I'm like, radio is just having this resurgence. I just feel like it's, and whether it is because we, podcasts are also having, podcasts came in ages ago, and then they sort of dipped, and then they came back, and it's like, are we just having this massive love affair with audio sort of thing? Because I know for me, literally the only reason, I would say really probably the only reason I put makeup on in the morning is because I listen to a podcast. If I wasn't listening to a podcast while I was getting ready, I would just be like, fuck it, I'll just skip it today.
Yeah.
Because I'm a lazy bitch. I just do it because something else of interest is happening at the time. So I just feel like, I feel like audio in general is just coming up. And I know, with you, you've got that experience with podcast platform and with radio. So on that, when did you start in radio? Like, what role were you doing? What year did you start? How did you first get into this game?
Yeah, well, I think it's funny because I think my love affair with advertising started with print. And I think I just had this real moment where I worked with a local business, and they were one of those businesses that said, it doesn't work. I've been on TV, it didn't work. I went on radio, it didn't work. I've been in print, it didn't work. And I just sort of said, well, let me look at your message. And it was a physiotherapist, and I looked at this ad, and honestly, it was like you needed a doctorate to be able to read it. Like, I had no idea what was going on. And I was like, what?
I don't understand this. You know what? I'm going to call them and find out more, and then book a whole series of appointments.
100%. And
they just captured me. Yeah.
I was just like, what are you...
like feeling like a dumbass.
What are you even trying to say here?
Yeah.
And when we got down to it, he was like, oh, a lot of women, you know, suffer incontinence, and we can help with Pilates. And I just had this light bulb moment. I was like, well, why don't we just say that?
Yeah.
Why don't we just say that? You know, are you scared to sneeze?
Yeah.
Come to this Pilates class, and all of a sudden these women started
Control your pee with Pilates.
100%.
Take the pee out of Pilates.
100%. So they started crawling out of the woodworks, and it turned out that they were able to help a huge amount of women. I fell in love with being able to work with local business to rejig what they did and make it really effective, but also to see them grow their business. So, you know, whether that's putting on additional staff, selling more product, going down different lines, I think that's just so fascinating. So once I did what everyone does, Jade, I went to FNQ on a holiday, and I never left.
It is that destination, man.
It is.
Yeah.
It really, really is. And then 6 years later, but I transitioned from print into audio, into broadcast audio specifically, and just fell in love. It's a dynamic medium. It brings the community together.
Yeah.
It has impact. Like
look at all our local community events and stuff. Who are 95% of the MCs or whatever? It's all our local radio peeps.
100%.
You know what I mean? They're the ones who are there championing the community, and whether it's paid gigs or like a lot of them do volunteer ones and stuff too for causes and stuff that they care about. Like, they're out there spreading that word, spreading them, and that's from all the different stations, all the different media houses. I actually think we have really quite a good, committed radio community here.
Absolutely. And a competitive radio market, which is really important because it keeps everyone on top of their games. But I'll never forget the time that I was walking down the beach and I ran into someone that I had waved at for, you know, a long time but never spoken to, and we got chatting, and I mentioned that I worked in broadcast audio, and she said that one of the announcers had been so vulnerable on air talking about their mental illness that it inspired her to go and get help. And it, you know, it's moments like that where you realize that
you're touching people, connecting with people
amazingly. So I think that connection for me is so important. Put aside the fact that it's just absolutely a fantastic medium to get your business out there.
And that's the thing too, I think it's like, you know, outside the announcers and the businesses that are on there, it's the music of it. You know what I mean? Music makes the world go round, man. Like, people listening to something, you don't have to know what a song is or even understand the language to tap your foot along to a good rhythm. You know, music also brings us together and creates a sense of community, and that's what radio brings to us as well. So I'm quite the same. I'm quite a bit of a lover when it comes to that kind of thing. So, all right, so you start off with print, and then you go on to radio.
Went to radio and TV as well.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. And then we were also, I did a lot in social media.
Oh, right.
Yeah, studied it.
On my little side of the game.
Oh, sorry, Jade. Realised I didn't want to do it. I was just like, this is not for me.
You don't want to just live in everyone's pockets and talk to them whenever you feel like it?
No. I just prefer to talk to them en masse.
Yeah.
So, and then I ended up going to Cairns and getting a bit more involved with it. And then from there, I've moved to Mackay. So I've been in the audio landscape for 6 years now.
And you're now GM at the Mackay branch of SEA as well.
Correct, yes.
I love how you didn't even bring that up. It was like, oh, I was in Cairns and now I'm Mackay, and that's all. End of story.
End of story, and here we are. Yeah, I was. It was one of those things. I definitely came to Mackay for the job, and then have fallen in love with the lifestyle.
So, and you're about to start a family here and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great place to raise kids, by the way.
Renovating a house, so I'm truly committed.
Renovating while pregnant.
Yes.
That's really smart.
Don't talk to me about the bathroom right now, honestly. But yes, attempting to renovate whilst pregnant. Exactly.
Cool. So you're an adventurous spirit.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting from that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's turn to radio. The radio resurgence resurgence. That's what I keep calling it.
I call it a renaissance, but
yeah, revival, whatever.
great words. Yes.
Is it real? Am I imagining this shit, or is it real? Because I do find one of the things I'm not too bad at is spotting patterns and like connecting dots that other people can't necessarily always see, but sometimes I'm not sure on my gut because I'm not as entrenched in it, sort of thing.
So the good news for you, Jade, is that you're not imagining things.
Yeah, I'm not a crazy person. That's always nice to hear.
Yeah, look, 2020 rolled around and we went through this crazy time. Like, can you remember COVID? Like that thing?
4 years ago.
I know, right?
Because we're recording this in March, so it was literally 4 years ago that we all started like hiding in our homes. I can't believe it's been that long.
It's
but also it feels longer in a way. Like it's such a weird time.
Yeah, weird time. But what happened was people were taken away from their communities, and I think a lot of people felt incredibly isolated.
Yeah.
You know, it was scary. We didn't know what was happening, and a really good way to connect with your local community and keep your finger on the pulse of what was happening was through our local broadcast radio. So we have found that, you know, we didn't lose listenership. The industry didn't lose listenership through that time. It gained, and it hasn't stopped. So the momentum has continued. So now we have more people listening to audio through more devices, and they're spending more time listening to more stations. It's real, and it's continued. So I think we found it again, and then we fell in love with it again.
And I think too, we just like, we're more and more so not always the best at monotasking. I think people are multitasking, and so it is kind of like I'm listening to something while I'm doing this and I'm doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just sit there, like, you know, back in the very, very old days, maybe my grandparents would potentially be like, sit down to listen to a show on the radio, you know, but you do multiple things now. And that's where I think audio just slips into our lives so easily, because whether it's through, you know, your earbuds or car stereo or whatever it is, it's accessible. You know, your computer, your phone, your every single fucking thing you can think of.
Your smart speakers in the home.
Yeah, it is. It's just, it's accessible from everywhere. And so you can just have this little soundtrack to your life happening while you're doing the fucking chore that you hate, which is putting on your makeup in the morning.
That's exactly right. And I find that, you know, audio consumption changes throughout the day depending on what it is that you're doing. So
totally
it might be,
I can't do the thinky shit in the afternoon, man.
I love, you know, having a laugh on the way to work whilst I'm doing my commute in the mornings. That's my traditional breakfast broadcast.
Yeah, okay.
I'll transition to country of a weekend.
Oh my God, I thought we were friends.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yes. And then when I'm on a really monotonous task, so obviously I'm renovating, so when I am painting walls, I get really creepy and I just binge listen to true crime. Yeah.
So can you imagine though doing that in silence, like painting those walls? Would you not just be tearing your fucking hair out?
Oh, exactly. It is like honestly the worst job, but I just find you can get into such a rhythm whilst you have
something to entertain you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And those entertainment needs, like say, shift and change. Like so podcasts are what I listen to in the morning, and that's because like I wake up and I start just thinking. I'm just like, and so like I like listening to stuff and going, oh, okay, so this new thing's happening with TikTok or the Google algorithm, or what. Like I like switching on really early in the morning, but I think because I do that as well, I drain easily, you know, by the middle of the day or whatever. So in the afternoon, that's when I switch over to music. And so like I'll be listening, you know, if I don't have meetings or whatever, I'm listening to music, and that's pretty much the same thing. And like, for example, last night, hit a bunch of, you know, because it is Easter, hit a bunch of Easter egg tokens and stuff out for the team.
Goodness.
It's now fucking raining.
May I just say, it's like torrential rain.
But, you know, we're doing this, and then so we raced to do that while it was still daylight, and then we went out for dinner and then came home, and my boyfriend's like, oh, should we just watch some TV? And I'm like, I just can't screen. I can't do it right now. And so we're listening to music and just talking, you know what I mean?
Beautiful.
Like, because it's just all these different periods during the day where audio just kind of matches the mood and feel and just that, I guess, yeah, like kind of keeping me in the right mindset and stuff for what I want at that time.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I keep bogarting this conversation.
I know.
This is not about your love affair with audio anymore. This is about my love affair with audio.
It's all right.
I'm so sorry.
I love talking to a fan. It's great. But I think, you know, the devices as well have such an impact with that as well. So we're listening to your traditional radio set up on the way, but you might transition to that desktop while you're at work, and then when you're home. And we're finding a real increase in time spent listening, which for, you know, anyone that's trying to advertise is just a pot of gold, that you have someone that's engaging for an hour or multiple hours.
And I think too, like, you know, like you think about like, say, workshops and stuff, like you kind of go to some heavy machinery workshop or whatever, and they have something blaring over the screen or whatever, because those poor guys, like what they're doing day in, day out is the same thing a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like it'd be boring as batshit.
Yeah.
If like painting, they didn't have something to sort of like pique their interest and just keep that momentum and keep them going.
And it's so funny though, because, you know, when I talk to advertisers, and, you know, quite frequently they'll say, but I don't listen to that station. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah,
because
I just had this conversation with Vicky before. It's just like, it's not about you.
I don't
it's
care.
about your audience.
The person that you're trying to sell to is listening to it. So, and then
that whole I didn't see my ad, or I didn't hear my ad or anything like that, and you just like,
cool story. So, I don't care.
Significance zero.
It's about hitting the right people.
Exactly.
And people will still come into contact with it even if they're not choosing that particular station. It's amazing. Like I was walking through, the hospital that was doing renos, and I can hear the radio station.
Yeah, shopping centres,
absolutely,
stuff, going into a boutique
coffee shops.
Yeah,
and I really find particularly
getting into a friend's car. Like there's all kinds of things. Walking down, the team listening to different stuff or whatever in the office. Like there's audio is just around us all the time.
And particularly in the regions, we haven't really caught up with premium Spotify yet. Like so many shops just use straight up broadcast, and it's great.
Yeah. You're like, it's awesome.
It's amazing.
Keep doing that, guys. Thank you. Okay, so what's working well in radio at the moment? I know, like, back in the day for me, it really was, I found it really useful for events. Whenever we had an event, I would always like to put some radio on when the tickets were about to close, sort of thing. Ticket giveaways, like a bit of fun concept, that kind of thing. So kind of, or events as in like promotions, like there's a sale this weekend or whatever like that. So I liked using it when something specific was happening.
Sure.
Whereas now, as you know, we've been using using radio for recruitment.
Yes.
And when, again, it's like anything, when it's done well and you've got the frequency and the right targeting and stuff like that, we're getting really, like, and obviously it's not the only thing we do, it's one of the touch points, but it is really helping support campaigns for our clients. That's what I'm seeing on a marketing agency side. From the actual outlet side, what are you seeing in media? Like what works well on radio at the moment? Or is it just like you're like, fucking anything, I can sell anything you want,
I can sell anything. No, take that back. There's some things that I will like, really, really, really niche things, use some targeting on digital. But do you
mean like a knit for your French bulldog or something?
Yeah,
like that?
absolutely. Like if you have like, I don't know, train set collections, things like that. But definitely I can really see the application of audio for any real industry. Recruitment's a huge one at the moment, right? Yeah. Absolutely massive, but it is all about just doing it correctly. So, if like Harvey Norman's a great example, right? It's fast sales. So an outdoor broadcast will work for them. If you are a doctor or you are building homes, maybe less so, because it's about what's your end game? Do you just need an always on strategy? And it's one of those things, like I would say, if you have something that people are going to come in and out of the buying cycle, it really is just about having an always on strategy.
Being that top of mind thing. So when they're like, oh, my doctor's retiring and I need a new one.
Correct.
I've been hearing about this person.
Correct.
That's someone I'll go check out, as opposed to someone I've never ever heard of and have to go searching for.
Absolutely. And funny story, that is exactly how I picked my doctor. But like floor tiles. So I'm about to need floor tiles. So if that person had advertised for 3 months and is no longer advertising, they've lost me when I've come into the buying cycle now.
I'm not going to remember you now, man. Like, that's not my job. It's your job to let me know you're there.
Absolutely. So that's where we really look at those always on strategies. So I think it's really just honing in on what your expectations are and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And then doing something to suit that.
Absolutely.
I think that kind of brings me to my next point too, is that I know, we get certain clients who will just be like, oh, can you get us a schedule from this time to this time for this budget? And it's like, okay, cool, but who are we trying to target? What are we trying to achieve? What's the bigger picture, etc.? Because as much as we do want, frequency, etc., I keep saying etc., like, radio is not just the spots and dots. Like, the ads are the thing. Like, everything has their place, but there's more to radio than just the ad that you hear. So for example, outside broadcast, I was just with someone about the other day and I'm like, oh, maybe we look at OB with, live crosses or whatever. And they're like, what's an OB? And I'm like, oh, you're just talking about it before. And like, oh, I thought that the radio just came and set up out front of your business.
For fun.
Yeah.
Jade. For fun.
For fun.
Okay.
There's no commercial purpose. You just were like, we're just gonna go sit at Rebel Nation and have the morning broadcast. And I'm like, no, you pay for that, man. Like, it is like anything. Like, they're a business, they need to run. And so people, if it fits in with their strategy, will go, okay, I'm gonna have an OB or outside broadcast, or on-site broadcast. Like, I think it changes or whatever. So that's one of the other kind of avenues that radio can help with. What are some other things in radio?
Yeah, look, I'm going to dub my partner in here just because of Rex, I'm sorry. But anyway.
Do it.
It was like when we had first started dating and he had come around to my house and I was listening to an announcer doing a live read. And he was just like, oh, why are you listening to this? I thought you did commercials. And I was like, this is a commercial. And he's like, no way. Like, I thought that, those announcers just really like that business. No. And I think where you can find content integration, you are mixing your brand in with voices that people know, love and trust. And it does give you a little bit of an edge. So if
it's kind of taking some of that credibility and adding it to yours.
Absolutely. So I would always highly recommend live reads if you can get your hands on them. Other great things are sponsorship. So, going into the news and going into the weather where it's in the brand of the station that people know and love, because then you are leaning on each other's brands. It works
and again, it's that credibility thing, because it's like, this is the news, this is the weather.
Absolutely.
These are things that we, media are there to report on to us. And so if it's, the morning news brought to you by Rebel Nation, well, that probably wouldn't be a fit for our brand, but you know what I mean?
Well, it could be. It's one of those things that I think people are more actively listening because they tune in, they know that sound, that,
or whatever the news music is.
News bulletin. People always care about what's happening locally in their community. So they're going to listen, they're actively listening. So getting your brand name into that mix is a really good place to be.
Can give you a lot of cut through,
Yeah. My favorite is more so the weather, because it sits after the news and before the weather.
So they're already paying attention.
Yes.
Right.
And then the weather comes on, which also we care about, because had you have listened to it, you might not have hit all of your tokens.
But now this afternoon you have to go and in the rain scurry around and then hide them in the office instead.
Yes.
I'm not looking forward to it. Anyway.
With events and really compelling things that are going on, there's always the opportunity to intermix that with promotional opportunities that a station might have. But in saying that, don't underestimate the power of the spots and dots. If you have the choice of an announcer speaking about your brand one time or 20 spots and dots in a breakfast, I'd take the 20 spots and dots all day, every day, because people need to hear things.
Yeah.
People need to hear something 3 to 11 times for it to actually sink in. We're like children, and I'm stealing this one from Esther, one of the ladies that works with us. She says it's like children, repeat, repeat, repeat. And I couldn't agree more.
It's about being consistent. Consistent with your messaging and not expecting that people are just going to know things if you don't tell them. So one of the ones I was talking about in a different episode, I think it's a 2023 study from Google, and they're like, on average, so it's not perfect, but on average, we're looking at 11 touch points across 4 different platforms for people to make a purchase decision, sort of thing. And it's not like a, people might see an ad and go, oh yeah, look, I'll check that out or whatever. But it's like, well, there's actually probably been other things that they might have seen them sponsoring something, or an article in the paper, or again, hearing something on the radio or whatnot, or seeing a friend of theirs posted in a Facebook page. There's all kinds of things, these touch points. You don't just sort of see one thing and go, I've immediately acted on this thing now that I've seen it.
I'm going to drop all my shopping, leave the kids in the car with a lemonade, and run into this sale.
Is that your parenting advice?
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely. You can tell I'm not a parent yet. But you're absolutely right. It goes hand in hand. So I don't think it's a silver bullet. It's never going to be a silver bullet. It needs to.
Nothing is, man.
If you go on radio but you do not have a digital presence, you are literally throwing your money down the toilet, because all you're going to do is incentivize people to Google your business and go to your competitor. So if you're going to use audio, that's fantastic, but make sure your digital is ready to go. Make sure that you're
have things working hand in hand.
Jade,
it's not isolated things.
Have good signage on your building. Like, honestly,
Vicky and I literally just talking about this too, man.
Have you turned up to a business and seen their dated, faded signage and been like, actually,
and their dingy window? I'm like, okay, you haven't got the most up-to-date signage, but could you at least clean your fucking front door? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do business with your germy, grimy shit.
Can you have a website that works?
Sorry, too hard. That sounds difficult.
I know. It's really difficult.
I just want to drive them to my website. Cool, your website shit. Yeah, but just drive them to the website.
Okay. It didn't load.
Yeah.
Sure.
Funny.
We got
but
them
radio
here.
doesn't work then. Radio doesn't
But then radio didn't work.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, I think a big thing that people need to check themselves, right? So firstly, what's your expectations? Because if your expectations aren't in line with what a marketing campaign to deliver, then nothing's ever going to work, right? So I think when you're exploring opportunities for campaigns, have a really good sense of, what does a return on investment look like? What's going to make you happy? What will make you do the campaign again?
Figure out what success means to you before you start.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't actually have an idea of what that goal is or that expectation is, you're never going to hit it then.
Yeah.
In a way, really.
And for goodness sake, can you not ask people how they heard about you? This is like dead set. I asked people how they came into my business and they didn't say radio. No, because you know what happens, Jade, right? So you do a recruitment campaign and you say, be home every single night. My partner's home every single night. It's fine. Like, I don't need to worry about him. But when I'm talking to one of my girlfriends having a martini, and she's having a whinge about her partner working over in the mines, I'd be like, I heard somewhere that you could do a job locally where he's home every night. Now, if you ask her how she heard about that, it's through word of mouth. Yeah, absolutely.
And people don't seem to understand, we get a lot of people saying about how our business is through word of mouth. And it's like, cool, but what sparks the word of mouth? Word of mouth isn't just like the one person who used you on day one has gone and told 20 people.
Absolutely.
Between the marketing that you do and also the way you do your business, and that I still think that's marketing as well. Again, how your business is presented, how you answer the phone, how you deliver a service,
did you call someone
client.
Back?
Exactly. All that stuff is marketing to me as well. That's what generates your word of mouth.
Absolutely. And what we find is audio is an amplifier of word of mouth. And that's hand in hand with digital. So if you find that people are coming through to you because you had a really good website, who is pointing them to the website in the first place? So I don't think that question is a really good reflection of what is necessarily working in your marketing campaign, because it is, you know, I guess there's a little bit of magic to it as well, of getting all of the elements working together.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, yeah, I really do agree. I think that while it can be useful to do market research, you also have to take everything people say with a grain of salt. Because I don't know about you, but like I didn't, you know, go and buy, you know, XYZ Easter eggs and then examine every reason for why I might have done, you know what I mean? Like I'm not that fucking analytical about things that aren't that big of a deal to me.
Yeah.
You know, as a business owner, it's a big deal to you. So that information is something you really want. But for the person buying from you, it's actually not a big deal to them. So they're not going to spend longer than 2 seconds fucking thinking about it, if that.
You know, there's never anything so satisfying as when you create an audio commercial that works on yourself. Have you done that?
Yeah,
where you just
I think marketing people are the most susceptible to marketing.
100%.
We're the ones who know how the fucking secret sauce is made, and yet we're dipping in, man.
And I'm like,
you can sell anything to me pretty much. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Yeah.
You deserve a sale.
Okay, cool. So the big one, what are your tips for getting that all-important cut through on radio?
Yeah. Work backwards. So have a really good understanding of what success looks like to you. Because if you don't have that, if you don't know what you're expecting or trying to create or gain or sell, then no one can help you. So have a really good think about what return on investment looks like to you. Really understand your demographic. So who are you advertising to? So often people go, everyone. Cool. Like I can't appeal to everyone.
Oh, no, you can appeal to everyone if you have endless amounts of money.
Okay.
I can make you 20 ads and get frequency on all different things and hit all different stuff. You know, but do you have, like some people say, like with digital, they're like, oh great, can we do that Google ad across Australia? I'm like, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You're just not going to get anything at all because
it.
I'm guessing your budget's like $1,000 a month.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Find out where you can skip the clutter. So say, for example, if I'm like so many people in Mackay and the Whit Sundays, we're recruiting for tradies, right? Everyone's recruiting for tradies. So are we all fishing in the same pond and going to that, you know, stereotypical tradie-based radio station, you know the one? Or do we change our commercial and do we appeal to the mothers, the partners, the wives?
Influencers around
100%.
the actual person that you're targeting.
Exactly.
Because they are just as important. That's where word of mouth works.
Yes, exactly. So is there a way that you can set yourself apart? Have a really good understanding of how you are better than your competitors.
And then you give us an example though of like when you say like setting yourself apart.
Yeah.
Because it's one of these things that people come to us and they're like, they don't know what their point of difference is. And I'm like, if you don't know what your point of difference is, make one.
Yeah,
That's
it.
my opinion on it. How do you sort of...
And it's not that I'm a family-run business for 20 years. I'm sorry, like... the general consumer probably couldn't care less. What are you doing that has kept yourself in business for 20 years in a family style? So
that's the interesting part. That's the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So
You've got to
is
scratch
it
below that surface shit, man.
Is it product that no one else can provide? Is it a price difference? Is it your exceptional service? Is it the fact that you turn around?
Exceptional service. Okay, what makes your service exceptional? Oh, you know, we return every call in 24 hours.
Great.
You know what I mean? Like, what is it that... And so I think with people, they're like, we say these blanket statements of like, great customer service, reliable team, professionalism, etc. And I'm like, fuck that shit off. What is it below that? What makes you professional? What makes you have good customer service? Do you just wake up and just be amazing at something? Or do you actually have like a really intense onboarding training sequence for your employees?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you do that makes that happen? That's the story.
That's the story, and that's what you need to tell. And for the most part, you know, I think an audio commercial is 30 seconds, which is a really long time for someone to quickly zone out, but that don't put a phone number in it, don't put an address. Honestly, like if people aren't Googling your business to find you, like I'm not going to pull over to the side of the road and write down your mobile phone number. These are all words that you could be using to tell that story. So what really sets you apart. Once you have all of that information and work with a really good account manager who can help you turn that into a creative message. I think it's really important to put it in the right place. So don't just blanket spots and dots everywhere willy-nilly. Have a real think about where you can placement. Yeah, and that placement's so key. So is it just the biggest audience? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is, you know, that key picking up from school. Sometimes it's a little bit earlier than breakfast because we're driving to our shift work. You know, there's so many different ways that you can get really creative with the placement. And I think that's just as important as your creative messaging. And then final, just go for as long as the campaign requires. So if you have someone suggesting to you, this is a branding type commercial and I would recommend 3 months, then put your expectations in line with that and run for the 3 months.
Yep. And just wait for that time period to pass.
And I'm a firm believer of an always on.
Yeah.
Even if you have a call to action, be telling people who you are and what your story is prior to the call to action so that people already, your community already understands who you are, what you do and what you stand for before you ask them to come and work for you or before you ask them to come and buy from you.
Hi, I'm here, I've just popped up, come do something for me. That doesn't work.
But you've never heard of me, you don't know my story, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, funny.
And it's so funny because, you know, I think businesses can get so complacent in the fact that they've been around for so long and people should know who they are. And that's just rubbish. Like, we have new people moving to town every single day, and you need to be constantly reinforcing who you are to our community each and every day alongside that.
There's also so many more competitors than ever before because for a lot of businesses, they're no longer just competing with their local business, they're competing with global business, you know, and so, and I mean that in not just a digital sense, but in the, like, a local restaurant is not like just competing against other local eateries, they're competing against McDonald's, you know what I mean? Like, them fuckers have money to spend and they've been doing it for a long time and spending it sort of thing.
And you know why? Because it works.
No, I don't think that doesn't sound right. I'm pretty sure they just throw money away every year. That's how they always show such massive profits.
Yeah, and the drive-thrus are always so full.
Oh, yeah. But it is, and I think that, you know, and then obviously on the digital side of things too, like for us, you don't have to work with a local marketing agency. You can work with, not even a freelancer, you can work with a full agency in fucking Guatemala if you wanted. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much more competition than before. And so people remembering that you exist and remembering why they should choose you, again, not their job. Your job is to be continually telling them.
Absolutely. And being front of mind when people come to that purchase time.
And it's all different. Like, some things are definitely seasonal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not thinking about Easter in fucking, well, even April. You know what I mean? Like, well, this year anyway. Because, like, once it's gone, it's gone. But there is that, like, renos. You know what I mean? Like, one of our clients, they have hardware and stuff, and they say, like, there are certain trends for when people do renos. But trends are just like the high averages. You know what I mean? Like, because there's actually people buying from them for renos all year round.
Yes.
Just because everyone else went away for Easter doesn't mean everyone went away for Easter. Some are at home painting and listening to true crime.
Yes, that's exactly right. Although not me, I'll be camping.
Yeah, I will not be, but I'm actually going away this weekend as well.
Lovely,
so, yeah.
lovely.
But it's just like, you know, I think that's why I think an always on as well. Like, I know not everyone can afford it. I'm not saying just like spend money for no sake or whatever, but it is one of those things that you know, it's one of things are cliches for a reason, and it's that whole spending money to make money. It's kind of like if you're investing in something, not just like, oh, I'm just going to pay for this and it's going to sort shit for me. It's like I said before, if you actually think about it and you have a strategy and you know your audience and all those things that you said, and then you're consistently paying that money to consistently have that messaging and stuff out there with the right audience for you, with, you know, that kind of thing, that's just going to keep feeding back into your business.
Absolutely. And I think you know, honestly, explore your options as well. So I would say that an always on campaign is sometimes more affordable than your casual advertising, because quite often, and you know, go to the station of your choice. More than likely, they will have some sort of loyalty program that welcomes you with open arms if you're going to commit to a 12-month campaign. And then you can simply add on to that at those key seasonal points of purchase.
When you need.
Exactly. But I think you'll be quite surprised in terms of the affordability of having an always on strategy.
It's like us, like when we work with retainer clients versus like someone will come to us and they'll get a website and, you know, like we'll check in with them or whatever, but they're like, I've got that one thing I wanted and whatnot. And you're like, cool, I helped you the best I can. Yes. Whereas if I've got someone, you know, our retainer clients, and I work with them every month and it's basically I become their marketing manager, you know, that's what we are, sort of thing. And then it's, you know, they're the person that when I see an opportunity comes up, I think of them.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
I work with them all the time and I'm aware of them and I'm doing things to be able to help them and stuff, because we have an ongoing working relationship as well. It's not that I don't care about Mr. One and Done, like that's fine, but he's not top of mind for me.
No,
it's the people who are in my orbit all the time that are top of mind for me. And so from the media and marketing side, I can give more back to you when we're just in each other's orbit all the time.
I don't think anyone runs out of stuff to say. I think there's...
I certainly don't.
I think there's always areas that you can explore. And it's really interesting because you can use your advertising. Yeah, it's about getting out to the masses, but you know, is there an area of your business that you would like more of? Like have a focus there. Is there, you know, seasonal ways that you can talk about your service? Can you keep it interesting to our audience? You know, there is so much that you can do. And if you work with an account manager or an agency,
to help you uncover all of those things and bring them out and give it their time to shine. And especially for things like, you know, recruitment pipelines and stuff like that, you know, like we're lucky we get resumes and stuff dropped in on us or whatever, and I think that's
what are you doing? Yeah, I'll have them.
But it's because, you know, I think that the way that we present ourselves in the marketplace, like we don't make a huge splash or anything, but we're very consistent and we're very consistent as far as showing up, but also the message that we put out there, and that draws people to us, you know. So it is, and like, you know, obviously that's like a small example, but even if you do amplify it on those bigger channels or whatever, you're just going to get more of it.
Absolutely. And I would always recommend businesses to check in as well to see how their campaign is running. You know, ensure that you get your reporting, so and that analysis, so that you can see that you're getting the spots where they should be, and what you have signed up to.
Okay, so to wrap up, if you could
we're wrapping up already.
Yeah,
you made this so easy, Jade.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah.
We do sort of get along pretty easily though as well, so I think that might have something to do with it. But if you want to just credit me, that's fine. Just say it right into the mic there.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so final wrap-up tip to our audience, if there was one thing that you could leave them with just to remember from this conversation, what would it be?
Okay. Look, it's going to be so basic. It is
basic is best, I reckon.
It is so basic. Have something compelling. Yeah. And have reach and frequency. It is that simple. Make sure that enough of the right people hear you at the right time with a really good offering, and look, it's a good recipe. That's why it works. Yeah. It's simple. I'm sorry. It's not magic. It's so perfect. Basic, but it works.
Yeah, 100%. Could not agree more. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And braving the rain to be here. Really appreciate it. Cool. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and I will see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Marketing and Margaritas. Find more free marketing tips, tricks and laughs at rebelnation.com.au.